Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group meeting. It's September 23rd, 2022. We're glad you're with us this morning. Our agenda this morning, we'll start out with success stories. If anybody has any good news to share, we'll then go to our 30-second introductions. We'll then do committee reports, hear about workshops, job fairs, practice interview team, the interview success workshop, the career tip of the week. And then we will have our main event coming up in just about 20-25 minutes. For those people on Zoom, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please just open up the chat window and you can enter your questions there. If you want to go ahead and start putting in your 30-second introduction information, you're welcome to do that so you can connect with other people who are on the call. For those people watching on Facebook, you're welcome just to enter any questions you have into the comment field. We are monitoring the feed and we'll be sure to get those questions answered for you. Please note this event is being recorded and is currently live on Facebook. The recording will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, you give consent for your name and picture to appear. Please note that any comments you put in the Zoom chat window will not appear in the recording. Well, good morning, everybody. Since 2007, I've been facilitating and leading the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group meeting. It was just about this time back in 2007 when the leader of the group announced that he landed a job. He brought us some donuts and said, who wanted to take over? And I think I scratched my face and he said, okay, Jeff, you're it. So I've been doing this ever since. In 2008, I saw there was a need in the Dallas-Fort Worth area for a website called Career DFW to help those by putting everything you need to know about your job search in one place. In 2012, actually 10 years ago, coming up next month, I launched careerusa.org to help those who are unemployed around the United States. I have written a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search that you may not know. It is available on Amazon, or if you see me in person, I usually have copies with me. And since 2017, I've been a member of the practice interview team, also known as the PIC crew. And you'll hear more about that in just a couple moments. Well, we'd like to start the meeting off with good news. Do we have any landings or successes out there that we can share and hear about? Going once, going twice, anybody? All right. Well, let's just go on, have everybody put their 30-second introductions into the chat window. So if you will, open the chat box, put in your name, phone number, email address, position you're looking for, 2 or 3 target companies, and then hit the return key. We will capture all this information. We will put it out into a email that I put out this afternoon, and that way you'll have everybody's contact information. And for those people who join us live here in the room, we will allow them to give their 30-second introductions in just a couple seconds. All right, there's plenty of time here and you're welcome to continue to get your information in the chat window. I am going to walk around here. We've got 3 people who are with us in the room and we'll let them give their 30-second introductions.
Hi, my name is Alexis. I am an HR generalist. My background is retail management with a very strong HR bent on that, and looking for something that is more HR than retail.
And your name is?
Alexis.
Alexis, all right.
Hi, my name is Eli, and I'm a business administrator. I can do anything in management. Thank you.
All right. You want to wait? You want to do it now?
This is Walt Glass. I will be along in a couple of minutes.
All right. Well, thank those people who have come to join us in person. For those, everybody, please get your contact information in there. We'd really, really appreciate it. It'll make it easy. We'll get everybody on the roster. We'll also get everybody counted for we'll get everybody counted and we'll get the roster updated. You'll get an email out this afternoon. All right. If you know somebody who's recently unemployed, somebody who maybe, I know their layoffs are starting to hit again here, please let them know about Career DFW and CareerUSA.org, two totally free websites that are out there. Right there on the very front pages, I just lost my job. What do I do now? So if you know somebody, if you know some, if there's something that, somebody who's been out there, please let them know at the websites. One of the things you'll find on the Career DFW website is a number of calendars. And on those calendars, there's all sorts of great information. Pink are job fairs, gold are special workshops that are happening, blue are networking meetings that are meeting in person for those in the DFW area. All the purple events should be online events so that anybody around the country can join one of those online events. So just check out the calendars. It's all there. If you happen to see something on the calendar, it's not up to date or not correct, please let me know about it. My email address is on that page and you can reach out to me and let me know. All right, we'll talk just a second about the practice interview team. The practice interview team meets whenever you need somebody to have a practice interview. You got to remember your resume and your LinkedIn profile is not going to get you your next job. It will get you a phone call. How well you practice your interviewing skills is what's going to get you your next job. So if you, the things are totally free, so you're welcome to, it doesn't cost you anything. The motto of the PIT crew is practice early, practice often. Experience has shown the PIT crew that if you practice 3 to 5 times, you'll be prepared for an interview. Doing it once is great, but you probably want to do it 2 or 3 times because that way you'll learn from each encounter. Everything is recorded so that you'll get a recording of it after the event so you can go back and watch it and evaluate what you've done. So all you need to do is get a resume and a job description and what your schedule is like 2 to 3 days out, send it to dallaspitcrew@gmail.com. If you want more information, just go to dallaspitcrew.com and you can find out more about it. The interviewers, it's always a panel interview. It's usually 2 or 3 people interviewing you. These are all hiring managers, and a lot of them are people who are currently unemployed looking for a job. If you'd like to volunteer to be an interviewer and you've had experience doing it, please feel free to send an email to dallaspitcrew@gmail.com and we'll get you signed up. If you'd like to schedule a one-way interview, you can send your request to Walt Glass or me. We each have a program that we can use to allow you to do a one-way interview. It's really weird because it's just you and the camera and your thoughts that are in your head, and you try to get those thoughts out. Some of the questions are timed, and only you will see it. So if you send a request to Walt or myself, we will be glad to help get you a one-way interview. All right, let's see what I have here. All right.
Well, good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. Well, let me tell you, I've got a special deal going for the Interview Success Workshop. It's buy one, get one free. You buy an Interview Success Workshop at $0 and you can get a free PIT crew interview. Now, I haven't worked this out yet with Mark, but I can assure that he will agree to that. So it's a special deal. I'm going to put up a website. I haven't done it yet, myinterview.com, promo code enthusiasm, and you can get this special deal. So today, what is the Interview Success Workshop? It is a very informal practice to learn how to sell who we are, what we do, and how we help, and to differentiate ourselves from other candidates. Companies are buying our personality, our characteristics, our soft skills, our experience, our education, certifications, those, and most of all, they're really buying how we can help them. And we need to show how we can help people in an interview. Many interviews do not include that at all. We've got to pass the likability test, the personality. You got to make sure that that fits, but we also got to sell all 3. So this is what I do. It's very informal. You have to register to participate. Look me up on LinkedIn. That QR code that you see up there will start a email to say, I'd like to register. You gotta edit it a little bit and just send it to me. And I'll send you some dates of availability. We can get you started. We do it over Zoom. You'll get a video of your interview. You'll get a handout and a video of a handout that covers a lot of things that we talk about during the interview process itself. So we deal with the basic 12 questions and 12 categories. You'll get a sample of each. We get to look at strategies, options, structures, ways we might be able to answer that depending on the question, who's asking, and where you are in the process. So we'd love to have you participate. Just send me that email. No need to have to sit in a hot seat. There's no need to have anxiety and stress while we're practicing and learning about an interview. So I call it learning without squirming.
Is your life going up and down as the job search us confound? Practice interviewing will gain much ground and our spirit will rebound.
Thank you very much, Walt. All right, let's see here. Oop, wrong way. Here we go. All right, it's time to hear the career tip of the week. There's a new career tip of the week on the Career DFW and Career USA websites every Saturday afternoon. These are those little V8 moments. Hope you'll glance over them, read them, because you'll find something very interesting. So good morning, Rosanna.
Good morning, Jeff. Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. Thank goodness. All right. This week's career tip of the week is dated September the 18th, 2022. And it's learn to love networking, or at least tolerate it. A look at the social and psychological factors that can make networking uncomfortable and how to overcome them. This is based on research from several co-authors, Miriam Kochowski, Edward Ned Smith, Lee Thompson, and Brian Uzzi. So we tend to have a range of reactions to the prospect of networking. Some of us love making connections and sharing information with new people. Some of us dread the awkward introductions and small talk. And though we have probably all heard that networking is important to our career, these different attitudes mean we approach it differently. Below the faculty, they discuss several social and psychological factors involved in networking. And so basically, we're going to start first with networking's ick factor. Miriam Kochowski, she basically is interested in the ick factor that many of us feel while networking. She and co-authors explored where that feeling comes from and found that networking can make people feel morally impure. Second, how to get over an aversion to networking. Given networking's importance to many careers, Kochowski found her findings raised an interesting question. Can anything be done to combat this feeling of impurity? In another paper, Kochowski and some colleagues examined how the lens through which people view their networking can alter how they feel about it. Across several studies, they've found that more people viewed networking as a way of achieving a goal, as opposed to the way of preventing negative professional consequences. They're less troubled by the networking they felt, and the more likely they were to actually do it. Think about networking as an opportunity rather than a burden. That's the biggest hurdle you need to overcome. Third, who else dislikes networking? Kochowski's studies reveal one group of people with a particular aversion to networking, those who see it as a burden. But other groups have their own reasons for disliking networking. A study by the late Ned Smith, who was associate professor of management and organizations, looked at why seasoned professionals seem to be more comfortable actively reaching out to their networks than the more junior colleagues. And after all, junior professionals often stand to gain the most from networking. So they're doing themselves no favors if they're networking averse. Smith and Kao explored why this case. First, they confirmed that higher status people have larger networks and are more likely to work to broaden those networks. But critically, they found that the differences between low and high status individuals actually hinged on something else. Whether people considered status to be an indicator of quality. Well, when people attribute their own high status to their talent and hard work, they were particularly eager to network because they were confident that they had value to offer and that others would be receptive to their outreach. Higher status people think, I'm not just networking, I'm offering value to you. Kao explains they don't feel like they're taking advantage of their networking partner, which makes them come across as more authentic. And of course, the opposite is also true. Lower status individuals who feel they have little to offer are less likely to network. For those people, Kao advises to think about the value you bring to the relationship. If you know you have value to bring to the relationship, you will feel more comfortable about doing this type of work. Next, the status that affects how we network. So social status affects how people generally approach networking. Another study by Smith and Leah Thompson, they show the status also affects how people network when they really, really need to, such as when they're at risk of losing a job. The differences does not reflect differently. So, hang on one second. The difference does not reflect differently sized networks. Rather, the research shows that higher status job seekers typically reach out to a wide range of contacts, including individuals that they met only occasionally in their work life. So low status people, by contrast, tend to share their situation with only those closest associates, such as family members and old friends. When people who perceive themselves as high status face job loss, they remember weak ties more than they otherwise would have. And so this is important because weak network ties are key sources of job-related information. Low status people under the same threat have exactly the opposite response. They go to dense, strong ties. Fifth, when it makes sense to network differently. Well, while it's true everyone should be networking, that does not mean that it's a one-size-fits-all activity. Different types of people need to form different sorts of networks. This is true for men and women hoping to land top jobs, according to research. So the researchers analyzed social networks and job placement data for graduates of an MBA program. And for men, the most significant factor affecting job status after graduation was how central they were to their networks. That is with how many highly connected people they have relationships with. Successful women also tended to be more central, but that alone was not enough to land them the top job. The most successful women often have tight-knit circles of female colleagues as well. And the reason may come down to the types of information that men versus women need to succeed. Presumably, having numerous connections provides access to what the researchers call public information, such as companies who are hiring and which types of candidates they're seeking. For men, that alone may be enough to land a good job. For women, however, also need private information, which would include insider tips about company leadership, culture, and politics, or hints about how to make an impression in a male-dominated industry. Women are only likely to put faith in such private information when it comes from trusted contacts. Furthermore, only fellow women can provide the sensitive gender-specific information that will be useful in a career context. Hence, the benefit of having connections who are both those close and who are women. You need that private information to understand how to navigate within a world when you're being held to a different standard. Now, everybody, I want to make sure you guys understand this article is very interesting, but if you were not able to attend yesterday's session, I highly recommend you go to facebook.com/careerdfw. There's no account needed. And watch the Networking Thursday session dated yesterday, September 22nd. The title is Networking Strategies to Manage Your Career, and it's by Terry Goldfarb. She was excellent and provided an outstanding way to change your mindset and view from networking to reconnecting. She offers many easy, simple, and non-fearful ideas on how to reconnect to former colleagues and how to connect and develop new ones. Check out that video and have yourselves a very enjoyable and fun and safe weekend.
Rosanna, thank you very much. You read my mind because I was going to mention to everybody that if you didn't get to see yesterday's networking presentation, it was really excellent. I did not get it up on the YouTube channel yesterday, but it will get loaded up there this afternoon. So it will also be on the Career DFW or the Career USA YouTube channel. The whole point of her presentation, just to sort of summarize, was you've probably already met everybody you need to meet. A lot of networkers say you have to go out and meet 5 new people every day or something. But if you just start making contacts with those people who you met in college, those people, those managers that you've worked with in the past, employees you've worked with in the past, if you just go back and reach out to those people, you've got a huge network. And people like to reconnect with people. So it was a really good presentation. So hopefully, please go back and watch it if you didn't have an opportunity yesterday about networking. All right, let's see here. Today for lunch, if you'd like to come join us to lunch, if you'd like to join us at lunch today at 11:45, we'll be at Mama's Pizza, 2130 West Parker Road in Plano. It's on Parker, about a half block west of Custer. They've got a pizza buffet, pasta buffet, big salad bar, and of course, the favorite that everybody wants is their hot cinnamon rolls. Everybody keeps an eye when the new tray of hot cinnamon rolls comes out because they are delicious. So if you'd like to come join us today at 11:45. All right, coming up in just a second, our main event, we'll talk about the psychological impact of unemployment with Rozan Christian. She's a Ph.D. psychotherapist, career coach. We'll hear that presentation here in just a moment. I want to talk about some upcoming sessions. Next Friday, Mike Chapman will be with us to talk about 10 new things you should know about health insurance for 2023. Mike has been helping those who have been unemployed for 15, 20 years on the different things that are going on out there with insurance, things you need to think about. Starting October 1, I think is when the portal opens up if you're for the ACH, for the healthcare program that you can sign up. And Mike's been going through training all this month, getting prepared for that. So he's going to share top 10 new things that you should know about health insurance in 2023. That'll be next Friday. And then on October 7th, first Friday of the month, we will have an open forum. We'll talk about whatever it is you would like to talk about. Oops, there we go. All right, this presentation is recorded. This was from last year. It is hosted by Carol Burkell, who many of you know was part of the PIC crew. She led a lot of the resume sessions. She passed away late last year, but I think the presentation is really powerful and impactful, and I think you'll learn something from it. So let me get it started. And if you have any questions, just put them in the chat window, and we will answer any of the questions you have at the end of the presentation.
Great to see such a great audience here today. And if you see me looking over here, I'm just looking at my second monitor where I can monitor the chat and also the participant box as well. So this will be a different type of session. I see some familiar names, and some people may have seen me do the Thursday webinars about resumes with lots of PowerPoint slides and lots of direction about how to do your resume. Today, it's going to be a more serious discussion. And the role I'm playing in this discussion is I'm actually just going to be the interviewer and interviewing Dr. Rozan Christian. So it'll be different. And then for those that don't know me, just by way of background, I've been a hiring manager for many years. I worked for a global IT firm for many years. And then I took early retirement in 2012, so I could get a job as a recruiter because I knew ultimately I wanted to become a career coach. And so now I'm a certified professional career coach. And today we're going to be talking about kind of the tough stuff regarding unemployment and the ups and downs of being unemployed. And I like that quote that says, be kind because everyone's fighting a battle. And, I've been through tough stuff too, so I can understand and empathize with what we'll be talking about today. I was laid off just before my 60th birthday. So I know what it's like to be part of a layoff and looking for a job at age 60. Then I found a job that I loved. And then 6 months later, I was diagnosed with, and some of you may know this and some may not know this, but I was diagnosed with advanced stage lung cancer in 2019. And so I had to step away from full-time work. And then I started volunteering with the pit crew and got certified as a career coach and then started a career coaching practice. And I've been lucky, even though it's advanced stage lung cancer, it's caused by a genetic mutation. And the reason I'm lucky is that there's recent research. So I've been through recent types of treatments, targeted therapy pills, and occasionally I go through chemo. And right now I'm going through some chemo, and then I'll go back to the targeted therapy pills. We just have to keep my gene from mutating. So I've been through the tough stuff too. And in today's session, as I mentioned, I'll be interviewing Rozan and asking her questions, and I'll be watching chat, but we probably won't get to your questions till the end of the session. So if you do have questions, you're welcome to submit them in the chat box. And if you want to stay anonymous, whenever I read a question out loud, I won't say anybody's name. And if you really want to be anonymous, you can send it just to me. You can send it to everyone, or you can send it just to me, and I will just simply read the question. So this is a time to ask anything you'd like to ask. So I do have a series of questions I want to get through with Rozan, and then we'll take your questions at the end. And I'm really grateful for Rozan for being here today and working us in between two patient or client sessions that she's conducting. So thank you so much for joining us, Rozan. And so I've given a little introduction about myself, and I was wondering if you could just kind of introduce yourself and your background.
Thank you, Carol. And I'm very honored to be with each of you here today and talking about this topic of unemployment and the emotional, psychological impact in our lives. I spent the first 15 years of my career in the corporate world. That's actually where I met Carol. We worked for the same company. I met her on my very first day of work a few years ago. It was around the age of 40 that I made the decision to go back to school and get my Ph.D. in counseling. And that's been several years ago as well. And during that time, I was given the opportunity to do a lot of research around the topic of grief and loss and the impact in all aspects of our lives. And then for the past 10 years, I've spent a great deal of time studying the whole area of pattern analysis. What do patterns inform us about? And as we can understand more about patterns, how they can help us to be more engaged in the decision-making process of our lives. And once I got my PhD, I did go into private practice. I've done a significant amount of career counseling, specifically with government agencies, a couple of different agencies that were going through transitioning employees out of the agency. and helping those individuals find jobs back in the private sector. And I currently, in addition to my private practice, I currently teach a class at SMU in their master's program. Individuals in the state of Texas are required to take a class in how to help clients deal with career-related issues. And so I teach that class to students who are getting their master's in career counseling or in counseling, and helping them to do career counseling with clients in the future. So that pretty much is what I need to say.
Yes, yeah. We got started in our careers together, so it's
We did.
wonderful to maintain this friendship over time. And to get started, I just kind of wanted to ask an open-ended question because Rozan, you and I did the session a year ago, and we've had the pandemic. And I'm just curious what you've observed over this past year as you've dealt with your clients in your counseling practice. And I know some of them are looking for jobs. What kinds of trends or things have you seen over this past year?
I would say at the very top would be anxiety. There's a significant amount of anxiety, whether it be worrying about finding a job, worrying about, am I going to be going back into the office? When am I going to be going back into the office? Am I going to be exposing myself to people who may give me COVID? All of the anxiety related around the disease itself and the uncertainty of the future. I think that people are really beaten down by the uncertainty, the confusion that has gone on. But one of the things that I really have observed with my clients has been the social anxiety, that now, how am I going to go back into the office, or how am I going to interview? Am I going to interview over Zoom? Am I going to interview in person? If I'm now going to interview in person, I now have to exercise that muscle that I haven't used in a while because I've been sitting at home. Or going out and doing networking meetings, and now I'm in front of people, and how do I interact? So the whole area around the social aspect, that as a result of the isolation that we've all experienced, how am I going to be back out there? But most of all, just that the worrying about what is the future going to hold. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And I think everybody can relate to that. And I'm an extrovert, and I found after being locked up in the pandemic and then between chemo treatments, yeah, it's kind of scary to go back out in the world again. Yeah, so certainly can relate to that. And you mentioned as you were introducing yourself the concept of kind of being a pattern analyst. And I'm curious how you use those concepts in your counseling practice.
Okay. Well, we could, if I just spoke about patterns, there are patterns in human nature, there are patterns in nature. And we see in nature right now a pattern that we may not even think about it, but we're going from fall into winter. And there are specific patterns that we see as we're going from fall into winter. I have this amazingly beautiful oak tree in my front yard. And then if any of you have an oak tree in your yard, it's been dropping acorns, and you can predict that there are going to be acorns dropping at this time of the year. And I just noticed a couple of days ago that the leaves are starting to turn a little bit of that orangey color. I mean, we can predict that things are going to happen. If they don't happen, then we know that there's something that's wrong. Something has changed, and we need to pay attention to what that change is. Some of you may have, if you step back and look at before you were unemployed, you might even be able to have predicted that the unemployment was on the horizon, because you could begin to see behaviors, pattern, attitudes, the way people were interacting, that gave you information about what was getting ready to happen. I mean, if you went to a wedding versus a funeral, no one has to tell you that you're at a wedding or a funeral. You see it through the behaviors, the way people are dressed, between a wedding and a funeral. And with unemployment, there are predictable patterns that we can speak to when someone has been unemployed. Each of you know, all of you that are on this call that are unemployed, you have entered into a world that you did not want to be a part of. Your world has been in some ways turned upside down. There's a sense of shock, fear when you first were told that your job is ending. Obviously, it's going to look differently the specifics for each of you. But when I'm working with someone who has told me, I think I'm going to lose my job, or I've lost my job, now what? I'm going to start asking questions about where are you financially? Are you a month away from being without any money, or are you a year away from needing to really get serious about finding a job? There are predictable things that, this. But one of the things that I can, in helping my clients in understanding the nature of the pattern is how adaptable are they? How adaptable? How can you adapt to the fact that you are unemployed? And research shows that this is the number one concept that individuals who are able to move forward is how adaptable are they? So those are, when I look at it from a pattern standpoint, there are specific attributes, feelings, thoughts that individuals are going to experience. So just to know that you're not alone in that process.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. I see that also in my career coaching practice, that adaptability is so important, because sometimes people need to kind of transition their skills or learn new skills to keep up with the job market. So that adaptability is important. And then also a pattern that I see fairly frequently, and those of all of the participants here probably see it as well. A pattern that happens a lot is when people apply for a job, they don't get called for interviews. They feel like their resume is going to a black hole. So I spend a lot of time coaching people on what to do to increase their chances to get an interview. Because if you apply for a job and just sit back and wait, the pattern is the chances it's only about a 2% chance you'll get called for an interview. So you actually have to take extra steps and find somebody at that company, either a friend that could forward your resume over to the recruiting team, or the recruiter or the recruiting manager, and reach out to them and let them know you meet the requirements. And that increases your chances. So I find people do run into those patterns. So thank you for that. And then also, Roseanne, I was curious from your perspective, what do you find people are feeling when they're unemployed? What are the feelings that you're seeing?
Oh,
If anybody wants to type into chat what they feel, you're welcome to, and you can send it just to me privately if you wish. I won't read any names.
well, first, that fear, just that overwhelming fear of what's going to happen to me. Am I going to find another job? When will I find another job? Will I find a job that I, want to do? Am I going to be underemployed? The shock of the dread of having to get back out there and, go through the interviewing process, the whole job search process. But just knowing that life as you know it is no more, and there are no simple solutions that and each of you know that, but this isn't a simple, easy process.
Yeah. And as you and I have talked over the years, I've heard you describe, being jobless is like experiencing a trauma, especially if you've been laid off. And I was just wondering if you could elaborate on that a little bit more.
Yeah, this is really my area of specialty as a therapist, is the whole area of trauma. And when I teach my class over at SMU to students that are getting their masters, I speak a lot about, there are different types of trauma, and job loss being can be a very traumatic experience. Um, Something has been taken away from you, and you had nothing to do with that process. And when you think about a traumatic event, something has happened to you that could, really impact your physical and psychological well-being. And a losing a job is, and you didn't have anything to do with it. And I think that a lot of people, when they're in this state, they think, what did I do wrong? Did I upset somebody? Should I have worked on this project? The shoulds and the oughts and the had, must have, and we become very critical of ourselves when in fact, you did nothing wrong. You just happened to be one of the people who was let go. Um, but that feeling of being overwhelmed and not being able to clearly see what's going on. And there's truly a grieving. Many of you may feel that this is like a death. And this is the tough part, because something that you did is no more. A way that you expressed yourself, maybe the people that you worked with, you don't get to see them any longer, certainly not in the same way. And this time of year is oftentimes very difficult for people who have lost family and friends to death. And so this losing the job can be about losing the job, but it can also bring up all of the other losses in your life that you might have experienced, and triggering those experiences as well. So don't be surprised if you feel somewhat, uncertain. And I do like this, where you feel like you're rattled, because that very much could be at play. And but just living through a trauma, and some of you may label this as a very traumatic experience for you. It doesn't have to be one of the big traumas of being held up at knife point or gunpoint or whatever, but it's been a blow to your psyche.
Absolutely. And somebody wrote a private, thoughtful message in chat, just saying that their identity was very much tied with their careers.
Yes.
And jobless makes them feel like their identity has been lost.
It's a wonderful point. Thank you for saying that, because yes, it's very much about, I am and fill in the blank. And if I am not if you fill in the blank, then who am I? And yeah, I want to add one other thing, Carol, that a lot of times when we've experienced a trauma and losing, your job as being a traumatic experience, those coping mechanisms that we have used in the past, I just encourage you to pay attention to them. Is your coping mechanism to freeze, to run, or to fight? And those are real. So if you're someone who your coping mechanisms have been to withdraw and to hunker down and freeze, you need to pay attention to that, because that could keep you from getting, when it's time to get back out there and start, the job search process, it could delay it. If you are someone who your defense mechanism or your coping mechanism was to fight, then you might find yourself, well, I'm going to fight my employer. I'm going to get, extra compensation. I'm going to get that job. And we focus on what the past, and, staying in the fight, and then making it difficult in our interviewing, because we're ticked off, and we make it difficult for ourselves. Or if we if we run, we fight, we fly, we flee. And I say, oftentimes say to clients, you're running. The running is going to come out in possibly whatever your addictive behavior is. If it's eating, drinking, spending money, whatever it may be, that's oftentimes how the flight comes out. So paying really close attention to this now, it, you know, are your coping mechanisms helping or hindering you?
Very interesting. And a few other people have mentioned some of their feelings. One has a feeling that age is a factor in
Yeah.
finding their next job. So ageism.
Absolutely. And that's a fact. And so as part of the pattern of unemployment, I could sit here and try to blow smoke and say, it's not an issue. You need just to get over it. But you would know I don't know what I'm talking about, because that's not the objective truth. The objective truth is that ageism is a factor. And this is where, like Carol was saying, being adaptable of, finding maybe different avenues with your skill set. And this is where someone like Carol can help you to look at those skills and knowledge sets that you have, and how am I going to move them into a different type of career that I might not have ever thought out about before. So,
Yes.
and there has to be an optimism, and I know that's easy for me to sit here and say, but there, in that job search process, there has to be an optimism about um, there's something out there for me.
Yes. And some of the services that we talked about earlier in the program, like practicing interviewing with the pit crew or going to Walt Glass's session, can help you try to have a little bit of that enthusiasm as you're interviewing, because it's rough when you get laid off and you're facing ageism and you want to present yourself in a positive way. Those are a couple places people can practice. Another feeling that a person mentioned is that they're having a little hard time letting go of is, how did I not see this coming? They're kind of blaming themselves, like, why did I get blindsided? And just from a career coach and a corporate person, I just know behind the scenes, decisions get made and they don't let the person know until the day of. It's just kind of a terrible way things happen. So I don't know if you have any comments about, people that are struggling with feeling that I should have seen this coming, but and how to let go of that.
Sometimes our denial helps us, if you look back and you are able to see, oh yeah, there was a pattern. If you've not been through it before, we're unconscious to it. It's not in our awareness that this is even happening. It's not like you're walking around. If you were, I'd be concerned that you were walking around your anxiety on high alert of, I'm going to be laid off. I'm going to be laid off. But oftentimes, it serves us well to not know.
Actually, it does. So is there anything else you want us to about trauma and how you work with your patients regarding trauma? And if not, I'll move on to the next question. I want to see if there's anything else.
Well, I would just say that in working with any of my clients, and I think we're going to talk about this a little bit more in detail in a little bit, Carol, but in working with clients, the main thing for healing to take place for you around just the depression, the anxiety that you feel right now, there has to be a safe container. And when I'm working with a client, and that means that there is a safe place that they come every week, same time, same day of the week. And so for you, having that contained space that there's some predictable things that you're going to do throughout the week that that give you a sense of groundedness and knowing that you can count on Tuesdays, or I don't know what day you all have your pit crew, but knowing that on that day I'm going to do my interviewing on Friday mornings at 9:30. I come to Jeff's this group. I meet for lunch with a friend on Mondays or whatever. There's some predictability that you can begin to put into place, because with trauma, it's as if what held you has been shattered and you're trying to put it back together. That space that contained you. You knew that you got up on Monday morning, you got dressed. I mean, you used to go to the office, but wherever your office is, you fixed your cup of coffee, you had breakfast, you went in and you sat down, you turned your computer on, and you knew you were going to be in a certain meeting at a certain time. And all of those things that you could predict, they are no longer there. And so finding those places that there is consistency is really, really important.
Great, good. And then sort of related to this, what do you recommend for job seekers as they go through kind of just the normal ups and downs? The moods, people feel a sense of grief and sadness and worry, and some days maybe feel a little bit better, but as people are going through the normal ups and downs, what do you recommend as a counselor? And then I'll share what I recommend sometimes as a career coach.
Yeah. And this requires being able to tap into what's going on inside, if your anxiety, am I depressed today? But it's being able to regulate your emotions. And, Carol's saying the highs and the lows, but being able to know that today I'm not doing okay. And maybe I need whatever it is that helps you. Maybe it's going to lunch with that friend or picking up the phone and calling someone. But in those low, you may have just gotten the message that you didn't get the job. You've gone through the interview process and you were the second one on the list. Oh, yay. And so you've dropped into that pit, but being able to have the objectivity to say, of course I'm not feeling well today, and maybe I need to go for a walk. Maybe I need to just step back and do my needlepoint today, but it's being able to check in and to be able to regulate those highs and lows, but as almost as an observing eye. And the language that I use is staying awake. We can go to sleep and not recognize when we aren't doing well. I mean, and so when we're asleep, we don't know. But being able to stay awake to noticing, okay, when I'm really low, I need to do something different. I need to have that person who helps even point it out for me when I'm not doing so well. But most of all, if you find that you're stuck, are you open to change? Are you being able to be adaptable? Because I'm telling you that is the number one thing today. I was sharing this with Carol the other day, that back when she and I first started in the corporate world, stability wasn't even an issue because there were no layoffs. This was before layoffs. This was before, all of the benefits being taken away. So we just took that for granted. And so the company was going to take care of you. Well, today you're going to take care of you, and you're managing your career. And all of the career research speaks to career management. You're now in charge. And if you're having a hard time doing that, reach out to your support system, whatever that may be.
Mhm. Yeah, you're so right. Things were so different back then where, having security and benefits, nobody really thought about it because it was
Mhm.
provided, but now it's so important.
Mhm.
And as a career coach, I often, it's often a conversation about the ups and downs of looking for a job. And sometimes, I'll ask people if they mention they're feeling depressed, I'll ask them if they have resources, such as somebody like yourself that can really help them. I'm a career coach and I can help with some job search strategies, but I double check that sometimes. And then from a job search strategy to help people when they're having ups and downs, sometimes an initial session after somebody's been laid off and they're thinking of getting another job, they feel beat down
Mhm.
and they can't remember what they're good at. And
Mhm.
so sometimes in the very first session, I have a series of questions that I ask people to help them really uncover their talents, their desires, and help enlighten the pathway forward, what type of job to look for. And I actually love doing those types of sessions because
Mhm.
I've seen people go from 0 to 100 in terms of mood, like, oh yeah, I was good at that.
Mhm.
It's like they
Mhm.
needed somebody to help remind them of them. I just ask questions, tell me stories about, when you were successful or doing something you loved, that type of thing. And then also when people have been looking for a while and they feel stuck and they reach out and just need a session, I'm stuck. And I start brainstorming with them. Okay, what have you been doing in your job search? What's been working well? Where are you getting stuck? And then I start brainstorming with them of different strategies they could do. Have you done a direct mail campaign about yourself? People go, what's that? I said, write a networking letter to your favorite top 20 people on LinkedIn to let them know that you're available and these are the kind of jobs you're looking for. And here's some target companies. But that's just one strategy. Or make a list of your target companies or make an executive bio. There are a lot of different activities that people can do. Or people that have been hiring managers can start volunteering with the pit crew. So if you've ever conducted a job interview, it's great to get involved in an organization and network with people. And you might hear about job leads when you network. So I love doing those types of conversations with people too, to kind of brainstorm about that. So,
And Carol, to add to that, when I'm working with someone and their anxiety or their depression isn't the major issue that we're dealing with as it relates to their career search, their job search. I often ask, how much energy are you putting into your job search? And if they say, I'm spending, maybe 3 hours a week, I'm like, well, you're going to get 3 hours of energy back. And so, how much energy are you able or willing to put into it? And the more that you're putting out there, there's more energy going out there to find a job that is going to be coming back to you in some form, some fashion. We don't know how, and we don't know, when. That's not ours to know, but ours is to put it out there and to do our part. Because the reality is, in a person that I really admire him, he said to me, he said, you're not nearly as much in control of the whole show as you think, or we are not nearly as much in control of the whole show as we think we are. And so we do our part, and then, the universe is going to give back when and ever how. But the trying to control everything will cause more anxiety and certainly more depression.
yeah, there's a lot of things out of our control. Yeah. I get a lot of questions from people like, well, the hiring manager hasn't gotten back with me. And I said, they're probably in meetings. They're probably busy. Don't read anything into it. And just follow up, see if they need anything. Let them know you're still interested, still available. Good,
Carol,
good.
can I speak to that real quickly?
Sure.
This is like really hard. And when I'm working with I'm working with a guy right now who he's been waiting for months for a decision. I mean, related to a licensure issue. He's have been waiting for, I mean, months and months. And this is a guy who not historically his way of coping is to run and to get into trouble and so to hold. And that I think is, this person who's saying that the hiring manager is not getting back to me, this is really tough because you're asked to hold, and holding can be very, very frightening. It can bring up all kinds of fears related to other areas of your life. But, if you have that support system that you can hold with you, but you have to hold. This is where you don't want to call the hiring manager if your coping mechanism has been to fight and, and to say, when are you going to make that decision? You'll blow your feet off. I mean, not literally, but you are, if you do that. So being able to hold during this time is critically important, which is part of what I'm talking about, the container that your rituals that you set up with your week. It's really important.
It is. It is. Yeah. When you talk about those rituals, I spend a lot of time with my coaching clients of okay, what is your plan for the week? How many jobs are you going to apply for? What networking sessions are you going to do? What volunteer work? What is your schedule for the week? What are your goals? And people kind of enjoy that. I think they find comfort in that.
Absolutely.
And then having somebody to hold them accountable. And I know through Jeff's organization and the PIT crew, people meet each other and form these accountability groups and kind of keep each other accountable
to
that's those
wonderful.
Patterns. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
That's the holding. That's part of the holding.
Yes.
Because we want, we're doing like, I don't have to tell you, but I'm sure many of you are inside, or it's like this, the uncertainty. It's too much at times.
Right. And so we've talked about kind of the normal ups and downs, and it's very normal to feel it. I felt it even when I retired from EDS and was looking for a job. There are ups and downs. However, I wanted to ask you more seriously, what should people watch out for in terms of, warning signs that it might be time to get additional help?
I'm going to go back to the coping skills that you have in place. If those coping skills are life-taking, and you're having trouble, you're staying in the pattern of playing those negative coping skills out, that might be a time when you need to reach out. And what I mean by that is if you aren't able to get out there and get the job search process going because your depression has you frozen, you can't get out of bed, you can't, your anxiety is so high that the thought of picking up the phone or emailing someone to meet you for lunch is so overwhelming. Or if you find yourself that some of your addictive behaviors are getting in the way, maybe drinking too much or whatever it may be. Or if you're finding that your relationships with people, you're becoming, very aggressive. If fighting was the way that you handled, stress, throughout your life. With it, this situation, it brings everything under, that the intensity of it, and the worst of us can come, can start to emerge. So if you're finding that your relationships are taking hits, and you're in fear that the relationships are going to end, those would be some of the ways that I would ask you to pay attention. And it might be a time for you to reach out. And then I pray that this isn't the case, but if any of you are seriously considering harming yourselves, I certainly don't know who's on the call, but the fact that you're on this call gives me some belief that you're still engaged in life. But if not, you certainly need to reach out for help. So.
Yeah, and something I learned about that is a longtime childhood friend of mine was going through some normal anxiety, and then she got laid off from a job and was terribly worried about finances. And there was a day she was concerned that she was going to harm herself. And so she was smart and picked up the phone and called her therapist. And then her therapist said, okay, hang up, go to the ER right now. And so she went to the ER, and that saved her life.
Absolutely.
And I wouldn't have known that to be a resource that if you're feeling, that low, get yourself to an ER. And it may be, they gave her something to get kind of the chemicals balanced in her brain. Yeah. So that's something that I learned. Yeah. From real.
It's a very important point, Carol. Very important. Most of us wouldn't know that, that to either get to an ER or call 911. Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any other resources? I know you've mentioned Psychology Today has a database.
Yeah. So Psychology Today has a database of therapists, throughout the United States, but certainly specifically within DFW. The only other place that I can recommend is and this would be after the first of the year when the classes start at SMU again. With their master's program, they have a clinic set up where students who are about to graduate actually can see clients. So if money is an issue and you believe you really would like some help, the students who are about to graduate see clients there, and they're under supervision with the faculty at the SMU clinic. It's a great resource.
Tremendous resource.
Yeah.
So how would people find that? I guess go to
Carol, what I can do is give you that information later, and then you can, if you can post it or whatever.
And I'll share it with Jeff.
Yeah. Their clinic
Tremendous.
is, I don't know, it's just right here at SMU Boulevard and Central Expressway.
That is a
really close
tremendous
to the
resource.
SMU campus. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at this time, I'd like to open it up to our audience to ask any questions in chat. And once again, you can send your chat message just to me if you wish, and I won't read your name, so you can ask anything if you'd like. And then once we get through the questions, I'll have Rozan kind of summarize some thoughts at the end. And I do see one question that has come in again about age. Why is age such a limiting issue with employers? Why aren't there companies that focus on hiring people, with more experience? And it seems more obvious than I imagined. And one thing that I know as I've worked with clients as a career coach, sometimes we'll go on the LinkedIn pages and just click on people. You could click on the company page on LinkedIn and then click on people and just look at the people and see, does that company tend to hire or have people on staff? Diversity of age and all, different types of diversity, or is everybody 20 years old? And to kind of find companies with cultures that value experience. As I was looking for a job at age 55 and 59, I was networking with people I knew, but also networking with companies that appreciated experience. And, they knew I would make a commitment if I got a job there. Whereas people in their 20s and 30s tend to stay on average at a job for maybe 12 to 18 months. Mm-hmm. And those of us that are older, we're willing to make a commitment. So I don't know if you have any other comments about that.
I think your point, Carol, about this, it's going to take more work, but finding those companies that do the values of that organization align with yours.
Yes.
The culture. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. And somebody typed in a coping strategy they have, and that's kind of similar to me. When you're feeling those natural ups and downs, find some activity that brings you joy. And somebody mentioned watching, fun movies on Hallmark. Sometimes,
Absolutely.
if you're having a bad day, like think, okay, this is not a
It's
good
going to
day.
end well.
Yeah, it's not a good day for me to network. I'm just going to watch a fun movie for a couple hours. Give myself a break. I was actually coaching somebody the other day, and they were having a tough day. And I said, don't feel like you have to do something job related today. Do something fun if you wish. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. Okay. Oh, and Jeff, thank you for posting a Glassdoor article about companies hiring
Yeah.
over 50 so that you can search for things like that. And several links there. Okay. Does it have anything to do with, as an older person myself, I don't want a fast-paced environment. I don't think it's even healthy. That's so true. Yeah. I mean, I agree with you.
Yeah. The first half of life is about getting out there, and we all know we were there, getting out there, working the crazy hours. That's what the first half of life is about establishing ourselves in the world out there, and getting the home, having the relationships, or whatever work was your journey of getting your life situated in the outer world. And the second half of life is about the inner world. It is about, I don't want to work 60-hour weeks. I don't, and physically we don't have the stamina that we had when we were 30 or 40 even. Those are real. That is an objective truth. That is a pattern. A career. I mean, I spend a lot of time in my class, careers across the lifespan. If I were to go out and change careers at my age, it would still look differently than someone who was in their 30s. It's a fact. And
Absolutely.
so, and we have to own that. I mean,
Mhm.
and how do we want to move through our world? And that, I think, is where a career coach or a counselor like myself can help somebody who is, how do I want the last 20 years or whatever of my career to look, and being able to take more of an active role in it.
Right. And as a career coach, sometimes what I'll do is ask people to write down their values. And I have an article with a list of values you can choose from. And that's one of them. One of your values is working in a place that isn't just frenetic, just crazy, fast paced. You want to work in a place where you can do a good job. You may have deadlines, but it's not crazy like that. So listing those things that are of value to you, so that when you're looking for jobs, you can assess. When they're interviewing you, you're also assessing the situation. And
Absolutely.
Yes. And when you get a job offer, you need to weigh it against what's valuable to you. Okay. And then let's see. Yeah, and somebody, I'm just reading some of the comments. Unfortunately, some employers Google us to find out more about us. Yeah. And so you do have to make sure your digital image out there is clean.
Absolutely. And you probably teach that in what you put out there on Facebook.
Right. Yeah, Instagram and Twitter and everything.
Absolutely.
And then this is a very real fear. Some people are feeling fears of getting a job and then getting laid off again, and just having trouble trusting employers after being laid off so many times. And I will say, as a career coach, I want to say at least 90% of the people I deal with have been laid off once, twice, or whatever. It is just, unfortunately, a big part of the marketplace. And I guess,
and in that case, I would just say that this is, I mean, it is part of the reality of the brutal part of the work world. And it's not all, always going to work out when you
No.
land a job.
Yeah.
And being wherever, unfortunately, I think this is what, individuals who are in their 20s may have over us, is that they're already looking for the next job when they're in that job. And so, not having that kind of connection that you might have had before all of this happened. But that's part of the trauma. That's part of, and being able to name that, yeah, I'm afraid this is, just as I'm afraid that the next relationship is going to end the same way that the past relationship ended. All of that is part of being able to name it and then move on as much as you can, and being in charge of what you can and letting go of what you can't.
Yes. And somebody mentioned that the most of the layoffs aren't performance related, and that's absolutely
Absolutely.
true. It's just simple cost cutting. And
Yeah. And that was the piece about, when I spoke about you entering into a field of unemployment, you didn't ask for it, and you more than likely didn't do anything to cause it. But are you sitting and asking yourself over and over, what did I do? What could I have done differently? And if you are, that may be one of those coping skills that needs to be said thank you to, and then let go as much as you can. Yeah.
Yeah, let go. Let go. And we do have a question. Do interviewers truly want to hear that the applicant is committed to spending several years of their life at the job they're seeking? And I don't think you have to from an interview practice perspective, I don't think you have to toot that too hard. If they ask, are you willing to make a commitment? Say, absolutely. This is the type of job I want to look, I'm going after, and I make commitments to my jobs. So I think what they want to hear is that, number one, that you have the skills and it's the type of work you want to do, and that you will do a great job. That's, I think, the most important part. And if you want to practice those skills, once again, I'd recommend the pit crew is a great place to kind of practice that. And then also with Walt Glass's sessions. Yeah, it's practicing those phrases out loud is what's important there. Okay. Baby boomers have real value to offer. That is so true. Thank you for that. Good. And we posted the Dallas Pit Crew .com, and also there's an email address if you do want to sign up for a practice interview. Okay. All right. So I think that's most of the questions. I think I've addressed all the questions. I don't know, Jeff, if you've seen any on Facebook or anything. Any other questions?
Yeah, Mike, no, nothing on Facebook. I know we've had several people watching on Facebook. This is just a great presentation.
Good. And I wanted to give, before we do a final wrap up, give Rozan just a chance to kind of summarize any key points that you want us as an audience for takeaways.
Yeah, and especially being able to hear some of the questions. You've had to walk through a door that you didn't want to walk through. And now what are you going to do now that you've had to walk through it? Hopefully in most transitions in your life, you've gotten to choose whether you open that door and walk through that threshold into the next phase of your life. But in this case, you didn't get that opportunity. So now how do you name what's happened in this to you? Name the feelings, name the behaviors that you're experiencing. So when I say name, yeah, today I'm not having a good day. I'm going to go sit and watch a Hallmark Christmas movie. And, or I am concerned that I'm about to implode a relationship. I better get some help. what is it that, where are you? And being able to name, and that takes some being awake, and that takes objectivity. I hope that you have a great support system in your life that loves you and embraces you as you go through this, and is accepting, and being able to hear their feedback as to how they see you moving through this transition, because this is one of those transitions that is, like, in many cases, a death. So allowing yourself time to grieve what's happened to you and how it could change the trajectory of your life moving forward and what you've given up. Being able to name it, that this is a significant loss for many of you, and that there are no easy fixes. I think that that's one that, I mean, my work, I don't believe in butterflies and rainbows and sunshine. I'm very real. This is a real situation, and there aren't easy fixes. But you staying in your container, whatever that container looks like for you, meaning your safe space with your people, with your knowing your, like Carol said, knowing your strengths, knowing your skills, knowing your abilities. You have all of that part of that container. You're and holding as you're listening and waiting for those callbacks. All of these are the emotional pieces that are not that easy, but you got to do it. And I love the fact of the accountability buddies. That's really powerful. But if you're in trouble, reach out for help.
That's an important message. Well, thank you so much for your time, Rozan, and
Thank
working
you.
in between your client sessions that you're conducting. I know you've got a very full schedule and you
Yeah,
teach at
yeah.
SMU too.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
thank you so much.
Well, I really appreciate having the opportunity to be here.
And thank you,
Y'all
Jeff, for
take
having
care.
us.
Great.
Again.
Well, thank you
Thanks,
both.
Rozan.
Okay.
This
Okay.
was really, really great. I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate the information, the preparation. I know you all spent some time, talking about this, trying to make sure we covered all these important points. So, thank you very much for being with us. Great information. Unmute, camera on. Here we go. Now you can see me again. All right. Well, hopefully you've gathered some, great information out of that presentation. It's really, it's just important because we're all dealing with this. There's two things that sort of, I remember they talked about. One was, being owed age discrimination. Just think about King Charles. It was 73 before he got to do what he's wanted to do all his life. So it took him quite a while to finally get promoted to the top of the chain there. I will look for that email or the attachment that I sent out about companies that are great for senior employees. I will look for that and put that out in the email that I put out this afternoon. Next Friday, our speaker will be Mike Chapman. He's going to talk about the top 10 things you need to know about health insurance for 2023. If you have not put your 30-second introductions into the chat window, please do so. That way I can update the roster. We can make sure we get this information out to you. So name, phone, email address, position you're looking for, 2 or 3 target companies, and then hit the return key. For those people here in person, if I don't have your name written down, please see me so we make sure we get that done today. Career DFW, Career USA, we're putting on training 4 days a week. Please join us. Next Tuesday, for LinkedIn Tuesdays, Kurt Vondermeyer will be with us to talk about LinkedIn from a recruiter's eye. Kurt pays the big bucks to LinkedIn for the full-blown recruiting package, and he's going to show us what that looks like from the very back end, which is just pretty amazing to see what he can see. And he's trying to find you. And what is he looking for when he's trying to find you? So please join us. Kurt's an independent search consultant, companies hire him to fill a job. He gets paid upfront and then the bulk of the pay when he's finds somebody. So as a retained search consultant, he's working one-on-one with the company. Next Wednesday for interviewing Wednesdays, analyzing the job description with Mark McDonald and Walt Glass. Next Thursday, being the 5th Thursday of the month, I'm going to do a presentation on these successful job searches focus on these 4 areas. So we'll talk about the 4 areas that I think you really need to focus on in your job search next Thursday at 1 o'clock. This session has been recorded. It will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel. If you follow us on Facebook, please do. Every time we go live, you'll get a little alert on your phone saying we're currently live. For those, if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, we'd really appreciate it. Every time we post a new video, you'll get a little alert saying that we've posted something new. I'll get this session up there along with yesterday's networking session. Both of those will be uploaded this afternoon. On the Career USA YouTube channel, click on playlist. There's over 400 videos there. So if you click on playlist, it'll get it down to 7 categories. Then pick the category you want. And today's video will be under the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group speakers. The networking one will be under the networking one I posted from yesterday. Don't click on the video, but down below where that red arrow is, click on view full playlist and up will come a list in the most current date on top, and you can go down and search for any of the sessions you'd like to go back and watch at your convenience. If you can, please join us today, 1145 Mama's Pizza, 2130 West Parker Road in Plano. It's on Parker, just a half block west from Custer. It's on the south side of the street. They have a pizza buffet, pasta, salad bar, and the very delicious hot cinnamon rolls. So thank you very much for joining us today, everybody. Have a great weekend, and we hope to see you next week.
Thank you, Jeff.
What's the name of the place you just mentioned?
Mama's Pizza.
We just found we were at a pizza buffet in